Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. Okay, let's have a look at our front sway bar. And then I'll work on axles. Now there's not going to be anything in this manual about it, but our sway bar kit will have its own instructions. So, in case you're wondering, TLR 22DC 5.0 is the front sway bar for the 22 5.0. And it looks like they give us 5 different sway bar thicknesses. That's very nice. That's a lot of tuning to experiment with. And changing up a sway bar can really affect things like oversteer and understeer. It's a great way to try to, calm a car down. Like the rear end's trying to pass you all the time, or the front end's pushing, and changing a front or rear sway bar, depending on the thickness, the direction you go, can really have an effect on that problem. I'm not going to go into great detail about which size and which direction to go for what, but it's easy enough to find that out. And at some point, if you guys are interested, I may do an entire video or even a series of videos on tuning. I could certainly talk about it for days. The thing is there's so many things that have multiple effects. Like, you make a change here and it fixes one thing but has an adverse effect on something else. That kind of thing. So let's see. He was running a 1mm bar, and these all have some writing on them. This is our 1.0. It's etched on right here. I think that's our thickest. No, it can't be. That can't be the 1.0, because this is a 1.4, it looks like. You really need a magnifying glass for this. Maybe that's 1.6. Let's see what sizes we have, because that's a good way to figure this out. As you can just go from small to thick. And it doesn't tell us? There's no legend that says how thick the sway bars are. Wow, I'm disappointed. Their older stuff would have told us. That's a 1.2. Okay. I know they have a 0.8. So that must be the 0.8. That looks like a 1.0. 1.2, 1.4, 1.6. So we're not going with a heavy duty sway bar at 1mm, but it definitely will have an effect. So should probably just start by popping these pieces on. Good old pair of pliers will do fine for that. Okay, so we're going to need to take this off. Let's see, maybe not. Okay, this goes in where that little triangle was in front. So let's start by taking this little lower bumper and the wing mount that it attaches to off. Yeah, I figured as much. I gotta take this top piece off too. Wait a minute. Yeah, I need to take these two screws out. You know, and while I'm in here and I have this off, this might not be a bad time to mount up the servo. It'll be easier to connect that linkage. Okay, so this screw down here, we need to remove that. I was wondering what that little triangle was for. It didn't seem to really have much of a purpose. But it is our sway bar piece, or the replacement for it. So what we're going to do is our sway bar will lay in here. We're going to have a basically like a wheel lock with a grub screw that keeps it centered, and then we're going to put these two small screws here, the button heads, and the button head is going to basically secure the sway bar. And even if I stop running the sway bar or I'm not using it for a while, I can just leave this piece on here. It's not going to affect the vehicle. It's not an aerodynamic penalty or anything like that. Okay, let's jump ahead to the servo. So we need bag H, which is our second to last bag anyway. And I don't need everything out of here. I just need the servo mounts. Okay, that is our servo mounting pouch. This is battery and receiver or ESC mount. So I can just throw that all back in here. It's amazing how many bags within bags within bags. Okay, in case I ever do want to replace that part, this is a residual piece. And these are all going to be save for later items. And they're all going to go into a parts box. I'm not going to be using any of those, but I may need some of these. And they give us a nice aluminum servo mount. Gotta like that. And I go for the thing again. Let's see, where did I put my servo? Got it. Okay, how's this oriented? Okay. So there's a certain amount of spacing that these are used for. There's a chart right here. The distance that the servo is from the mount, in other words, its position relative to the steering arm, is important. Now I have the aluminum 25 tooth TLR arm, and I'm pretty sure that's Sanwa's a 25er. and they say we need the 2mm and the 1mm spacers for a Sanwa servo. This isn't a very recent servo, but this is a great servo. It's a high-speed servo. It's ERS-961. Part number is 84661. Airtronic Sanwa. I've had this for probably 15 years. It's never given me any problem. It is really fast, or it was very fast in its day, but it's still a very reliable servo. It's been in more than one buggy, and I was happy to pull it out of the vehicle it was in and put it to use here. So we need a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1. Okay, and what size hardware do we need? We need M3x10s. And as long as I'm digging out hardware, let's see what we need from below. Okay, we need M3x8, and we need 2 of them. That's it? Only 2? Sure enough. Okay. M3x8s, and I have 1 left. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, I guess I'll have to use steel for that. Well, I could use the 1/8, and I could use 1/12 because the hole is a pass-through. So it'll still be lighter than steel. And we're supposed to have some washers. Okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 washers. And here is our ball stud. And the leftover steel hardware can go in there. So let's start by mounting this up. And we're going to need some Loctite on there. Okay, not going to tighten that down yet. Let's get our next screw going. Again, I'm not going to tighten that all the way down yet. I'd feel more comfortable about the spacers if instead of just, you know, saying, okay, for this brand of servo, this, if they gave us a measurement to try to hit, like, you know, a distance for the base of the servo or whatever, to the servo mount, something like that. It'll do. Because I've heard of instances where the, you know, having the angle of the connecting rod from the servo arm to the main linkage, if that's not correct, it can really throw some wild handling things at you, just inconsistency and okay. So I already centered the servo earlier. So now I can just put on this aluminum clamping arm. Get as close to center as the splines allow. Oh, please tell me this is a 25er. Let's see what that's supposed to be. That's 23. I thought for sure this was a 25 pin. See, it shows you how long it's been since I've used this servo. Okay, well, I will bag this up and save it for another project, or if I end up getting another servo for this at some point. I've already cut it out of the bag, so I probably can't send it back. But I can probably use it on another kit. And I don't have the screw for this for some reason. Okay, I know where that screw is. Okay, so let's get this attached. Okay, and to mount this, instead of the 8 and a 12, I had some other countersunk flatheads, and I pulled out 2 10s. Because the 8 just seems a little short, and since these are both, since this goes through the aluminum mount, the hole goes all the way through and out the other side, the base, there's no reason to go short on it. So I thought I'd go ahead and use matching hardware. I'm going to start by putting in one screw, and let's have a look at how far it protrudes, if at all. Okay, it comes through by about 1.5 millimeters, so I'll go ahead and use that 1/8 that I have on the other side. I'll save that 10 for something else. But using the 1/10 is better than using the 12, so I'm fine with that. So there we go. So now we can put all this back together. Let's go ahead and start up top. Okay, now that looks like something I want to do after I've got this in place. Okay. This is the only thing I really don't like about these kits is the ball joint is built into the arm, and it's got a big molding line on it. I'll try and clean that up a little bit. Oh, crap. That's no big deal. I forgot to put this on. Okay. Go ahead and put these shims in the might need them later bag. This is all about fine adjustment right here. So you can see if I lift one, at some point the other one starts lifting. So that means that there is tension there, and it's doing exactly what we expect it to do. And it doesn't have to be a lot of an effect. It just has to be a little bit. I mean, these cars are all about, you know, the tolerance is like, you know, less than the thickness of a human hair. I mean, everything is just, you know, a little bit here or a little bit there, and all of a sudden that's a different handling car. So that is in. Now let me show you something that'll help you make your adjustments if you do this. Okay, when you're tightening these bolts and you're trying to get these, tighten them so at first it doesn't move, then loosen it a little bit at a time while lifting the arm up and down until you see this start to rotate. Once that's rotating, you know that you've loosened this enough to let the bar twist. And that's what you want. You want the bar to be able to move freely, but you don't want it to have slack to be able to move forward and backwards like that. So it's just enough to retain it. So as long as that piece is rotating, that means we're applying torque all the way across the bar from one side to the other. You don't want it just on one side. You want what happens here to affect this. So now I can put the wing mount back on. And our little skid plate that goes with it. Okay. And these two horns get put away as well. Always save everything that comes with the kit. If you ever want to sell it to somebody, it definitely increases the value if you have all the spare parts that come with the car. Okay, next up, battery mounts. And since we're done with this sheet, this is something that is a good thing to just tuck in the back of your manual. Any spare parts that you get from TLR, they'll usually come with their own sheet, and that's a great place to put it so it all stays together. I'll save those for later. Okay, so let's see. What position is he running the battery pack? Battery position is 1.5 with the carbon strap. So that's interesting. How do you get 1.5? Let's see. I really like this battery mounting system. That's really neat that you've got 5 different basic, positions that you plug this in, and that holds your shorty pack. I'm gonna try 2, and I'll tinker with it. This is another great thing to play with when you're trying to figure out your car, sort out handling issues. The back end's coming around on you, sliding out. Move the battery back a little bit, put more weight on the rear tires, give the front end more, actually you might go the opposite direction. In any event, moving this forward and backwards is a very good way to adjust your car, to tune things. So the only bolts we need is 1 bolt from above, and that is the M310s, which I'm gonna replace. You know what? To make my life easier, I'm gonna go, well, there's only 1 hole to tap, so I'll do that real quick. Let's have a look at these. Are they the same size? No, we have 2 longer and 2 shorter ones. So depending on the size of our shorty pack, we are good to go. Now, I'm going to be running, probably going to be running these smart packs. If I don't run these, I'll be running my Orions, which are slightly smaller. That's nice and easy. I thought I saw something in the directions about using these. Yeah, looks like these are the longer ones. That looks like the right ones to use for this. Oh, that's great. And they just stay on there. So you can just on and off. You don't have to worry about these things getting lost on you. That's fantastic. I really like that. And that's just going to be so easy to move the battery. Because first off, I mean, even if the screws were out, this battery cannot get away. Because the battery itself is holding these things in. They've got a pair of pins that go into the holes in the side rails. So the batteries, it's almost impossible for this battery to come out and or move. That's great. This looks like the grub screw for our antenna. And we have antennas on either side, which is nice. So depending on how, where you mount your receiver, you can run the antenna wire to either side of the car. Now, I don't have very long antennas, so I'll probably just run a little stub of a tube, but it'll still be there. Most receivers don't come with very large antenna wires anymore. So now let's have a look at this. Okay, looks like it goes in this direction. What does it screw down to though? Oh, I'm looking at the rear. And the 45-degree angles face the rear. So, receiver and speed controller will mount there. Wires for the motor will come across. Simple enough. I'll just go ahead and screw that in place for the time being. I like that more and more manufacturers are providing a dedicated tray for you to attach your electronics. For example, the Techno short course truck that I'm building, that has two things. It's got a box that is fairly well sealed, and I wouldn't say it's watertight, but it certainly is going to keep a lot of dust out, and that is for your receiver. And then they've got a separate plate that screws down with 3 screws to hold your electronic speed controller. I think that's just fantastic. Damn. I just can't resist knocking my head into the camera. Got to figure out another way to do that. Not another way to bang my head into the camera. Another way to position the camera so it's not such a threat to my life. I've already been concussed once this month. That was enough. I slept for like 5 days. And if you haven't watched my little PSA on batteries, get yourself some battery bags. Have one bag for each battery. And then preferably some larger bags for transporting and such. A while back, let's see, I guess it was about 2 months, 3 months ago, somebody, could have been a kid, could have been an adult, left a car charging in their garage, and they burnt down $1 million house, if you can believe that. All because of a LiPo. And it wasn't like it was in, you know, a bedroom next to some drapes. It was in the garage. But, you know, I'm guessing it was a basher and, you know, probably a 4-cell or larger battery. And when those things detonate, they go nuclear. It's really impressive. Check out my little video on batteries. I've got some footage of a small 3-cell battery, you know, like maybe a 1500 or an 800 milliamp battery. It's a little, you know, drone battery, and that thing goes up, and each cell goes up, you know, first you get like one or two of the cells together, and then you get a secondary of the last cell going as well. Now there's a little problem here that I can see. My servo is, their horn is touching up here. It's rubbing all the way under there, so I'm gonna have to shave that somehow. Which means I could try to do it here, but the best thing to do is gonna be to take the top off again so I can get to the top of this and shave it down. Because that is not happening. That will ruin the handling of this car. And I'm gonna have to take a decent amount of material off of there. like at least a millimeter. I'm gonna have to, might want to Dremel that, because it's really, I mean, it really catches there. Damn. You know, if the servo wasn't so hidden, I could try loosening the screws on the servo and sliding the servo downwards. In fact, that's probably the best thing to do, because I don't want to weaken this. So I think I'll try that. Okay, guys, I'm not gonna make you watch all that. You've already seen me take the front end off of this once already in the last hour. So what I'm gonna be doing, just to give you the overview, I'm gonna take out the screws here, here, here and here, and the 2 screws down below that will let me lift this and unscrew the servo and just get it far enough back that I can get to the screws on either side, and try pushing the servo downwards as far as I can and re-tightening the screws. I might change up the washers for something a little smaller, but I know that if I can get some space in here between the top here and the servo, I'll have done my job. I've only got to get about a millimeter. So I wonder if I could do that without even, with just pulling the servo backwards. Anyway, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to work that problem, and I'll let you. Well, what do you know about this? Bag tuning parts. Here's our tree. Here are our front end parts. Here are our transmission parts. Here's the rest of the front end parts and the front wedge. Why don't, and here's the rear end parts. Why don't they tell us? It's in the bottom of the box. It's not labeled and it's not mentioned. It's my fault for not looking, but still, grr. Okay, okay, I'm gonna shift gears. I'm gonna go right back to the transmission. I'm gonna get busy. Well, as long as I'm sitting here staring at the front end, I'm gonna move these camber links to the middle location and just kind of go over, you know, anything that I may have like moved past and didn't do. Okay. Okay, this is a good time to do a little demo on making a change. This is also a really good time to start another parts box. Okay. So I'm going to be using the long ones. Go ahead and drop this stuff in here. I was about to mount the front wing, but that can wait. Okay, here's all the extra spur gears. Not going to be able to fit everything in here, but I think I'm going to be able to put a lot of stuff in there. Okay, let's see. Put my sway bars in there, or I can just pull another one. Probably going to have more than one parts box going here. I'll put an assortment of screws in later. Axles. Now here's those diff parts. And just drop that box in there. Now I'm not using a rear sway bar at this time, but might as well pack this away. And again, they give us a ton of sway bars, 5 to be specific. That's really nice. That's easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and fold this up one more time over and put it in here. So there's all my front and rear sway bar parts. Let me set this down for a minute and let's get going. Okay, those go to my trans, which is right here. Let's see, where are my little front blocks? There's that one rear piece. And there's the 2 camber link blocks. Okay, so more front end pieces. These are the ones that I already had the pieces for, but those will go in here anyway. Never know when you damage one. Okay, so these are 4 and 6 steering arms. We're using the 5s. And this is the 20 degree wedge, and you can see the angle that's cut into that. We're not using that at this time either. Now these 2 we are going to be switching in for the ones that have 2 holes, because we want the hole in the center. So the easiest way to do that is to just start by unscrewing this guy here. Okay, and we need to coax this piece out. I wonder if I can get that from underneath. Yep. And then the trick is going to be sliding the bolt over. Should be able to nudge it over without pushing it through. So now that the nut has been moved over, well, it dropped out. Let's see if we can't get that back in with a pair of needle nose pliers. I had a feeling that was going to be a tough one to do. Jeez. Let's try doing it this way. I'm getting it. And it's not easy, but it's easier than taking the front end apart to get to it. Okay, that's one done. Let's do the next one. See if we can do it a little more cleanly this time. Okay, well, I got it out, and I got the bolt out too, unfortunately. Just hoping I could get that to stay in. I'm always finding my wife's hair around. Long blonde hair, ain't mine. Definitely ain't mine. Okay, I think I'm getting an idea here on how to do this. Okay. You got the screw protruding through. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I think you are going to get the idea. And because we just got to get the nut started, and then we can pull it into the slot. So getting it started with the needle nose like this, and then we can pull it into the plastic, and then finish tightening down the ball stud with the nut in the plastic slot. Done. Okay, so these two go into the parts box. So everything else up front was squared away. There wasn't any compromises made over there. So now it's time to back up and do the transmission. And I was able to cancel that order just in time. So that's nice. I did order some extra tires. See, the thing is, even though it's a clay track, and there are specific clay compounds, they don't do as well in the cold. So I've got a set of the clays in the tires that I want. I'm going to be running Proline Electrons up front and Proline Positrons in the rear. I've also got a pair of J Concepts tires. I'll show you those. They're both, I showed them to you earlier in the series. They're both octagons. It's almost a slick tire. The Electrons and the Positrons have some tread, and that's also good for the same environment. So I have a set of the Electrons and Positrons in clay, and I have another set of them that are the super soft compounds. And the reason I did that is because of temperature. The super soft compounds are for 70 degrees and below. And right now, we're in the 40s and 50s, sometimes as high as 60s outdoors, and it's a warehouse. It's not heated very much, if at all, so it's probably going to be in the 50s or 60s indoors. So better to have the parts. I mean, better to have a set of cold tires. So if I find that the clays aren't gripping as well, I can switch over. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.